happy to see everybody here, and currently I'm still employed as a farmer and rancher. Most people ask me, I tell them I work for a non-profit organization. We managed to be surviving, and thanks again for everybody being here.
This could take either a short time or an hour.
I'm Bruce Sumley, and I served in 198 Company D, the 3rd Platoon, but the 5 of us were in from 67 to 68. While I was in Vietnam, I lived in Springfield, Illinois. I got tired of the cold, so now I reside just south of Houston. And I served from November 67 to November of 68. Thank you.
This is Larry Boatwright. I'm his wife, Carol. He's had a stroke, and he has a hard time expressing himself. So I'm his sole speaker.
No.
He was drafted in November of '66, and he served in Vietnam January of '68 to November of '68. And give me more information.
Okay, see you.
Oh.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Sam Maggio. I'm not much of a public speaker, but I had 2 years of college before I got drafted. And it's because I like drag racing and dating more than actually doing book work that I got drafted. So I went in Chicago to the draft office there, and there was 30,000 guys that month, June of '67. And 1/3 of them went to the Marines. And, you know, I'm a little crazy, but I'm not that crazy. So I wouldn't have enjoyed the Marines. You know, they always had the junky equipment, the old rifles. They flew around in these ancient helicopters. And I got put in the infantry and went to Fort Leonard Wood first for basic, and then Tigerland, Fort Polk, which was like another hellhole, you know. So I ended up in Vietnam November of '67 with C Company. And I'm there doing patrols for about, you know, a month and a half. And somebody remembered that I could type. And I passed the typing test, not because I was a great typist, it's because the typewriter fell apart. The platen went off of the thing and fell on the floor, and the guy says, well, that's good enough, you know. You can type. So I got a mail clerk job for about 20 days in Company C, and I thought, this is great. You know, I shined my shoes, I got cleaned up, you know, I was taking regular showers, and the Tet Offensive came February 8th. And I got flown up to C Company, and while we were in C Company, mopping up on the Tet Offensive for, you know, a couple of weeks, they transferred me to D Company, which they didn't need any clerks. So I was a rifleman, and I did the rifle for about, you know, a month or something, and I got the radio because I wanted to be a Spec 4, and that's the only way you could get rank is do something special. So at the time, I got wounded twice, one little one and one big one. I was carrying a radio, and I got medevac to Da Nang, and I guess Butch Sunley was just up here. He was wounded with me, and we were all together. Anyway, there's 3 guys here that are from my company, my platoon, and then Larry Stovall got there a couple days after I left. But anyway, I'm here with some of the greatest guys, and I wanted to come to this because this is the first D reunion I've seen. I've been to several C companies, and they're getting boring, you know, because like hardly anybody shows up anymore. And we've done talk all we're going to talk. So I went to the AmeriCal last summer, and mostly 196 people show up. There's not a whole lot of, but I was with 3 guys from C Company that I was at the Tet Offensive with, so that was good. Anyway, after I got wounded, I went to Japan and Fort Riley, Kansas for like 5 months or something. I got out with a profile, 30% disability exit from the service, and they made me a truck driver. So when people look me up now, I got 64 B20 or B40 or whatever it is on my official record, but I'm 11 Bravo, and I always have been, and I'm very proud of that, because when we're not out engaging with the enemy, we're laying around. We don't have a job. We just sit with our feet up and relax, because that's our job, is to deal with Charlie when he shows up. But he wasn't on a punch clock either. So the rest of the time, we're just laying around. After we dig our sandbags, we lay around, and that's our job. Just lay around in case they need us, and they need us like toilet paper, I always said, because they use us, they wipe us, and throw us away. So, anyway, I got 8 years of college over the years because it was very hard for me to get a job with 30% disability. And I did electronic repair 16 years. I worked a bunch of other odd jobs, including fiberglass for a nuclear plant once. And I did silk screening, part-time T-shirts and signs and so forth for many years, but I can't stand the smell of the stuff. So I got out of that, and I got a heart attack about 6 years ago, and I've been like kind of semi-retired, or I like to say retarded, but anyway, here I am. I am so glad to be here, and I saw this in the AmeriCal newspaper, or their newsletter, and I got a hold of the guys in the center here somehow, and we're all here, and this is just wonderful for me. And I'd like to thank everybody for putting this together, because not only your time, but the cost involved and your dedication is fantastic. It's phenomenal. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, my question to you is, how you follow an act like that? Man, I'm Larry Stovall, and I served with Sam and everybody at that table, but he was gone by the time I got there, so I first met him when I got here. Our first experience, Patty and I, my wife, was a couple of years ago. We went to the AmeriCal Division reunion in Shreveport, and that was our first experience, and our only experience until today, I guess, in this type of reunion. I too am honored to be here, and especially sitting at the table with the 4 guys that I'm here with. My experience started out, kind of like Sam. I went to school for a couple of years, and I got drafted, and I said, well, I'll show them. I'll just go join. They won't draft me. I was real smart. And after that, I went to Fort Campbell for basic training. And the first thing that happened to me there was the DI got us out and lined us up and said, okay, left face, right face, about face. you, and you are squad leaders. Well, I got picked because I went to a land grant school, and back in those days, all males at land grant colleges took 2 years of ROTC. So I knew how to do left face, right face, and about face. That was about the extent of it. But so after that, I spent a little time at Fort Knox in AIT. I went to Benning School for Boys, like Lynn did down at Fort Benning. After that, I stayed there. I was assigned as an instructor at the infantry school, and once you went through the school for that, you kind of knew that you had a year before they'd send you to Vietnam. So Patty and I got married and spent our year at Fort Benning, and I went to Panama and did jungle school. And when I left for Panama, she was 8 months and 2 weeks pregnant with our first son. So when I went down to Panama, I didn't really know if I was going straight to Vietnam or if I was going to come home first. And everybody thought, well, we'll probably go home and have a few days before we have to be at the coast, which that was the few days that was her due date of our first son, which I kind of wanted to be there for. So as it ended up, we did get a delay en route. We came back to the States, had a few days before, the port call in San Francisco. Well, her doctor kept saying, oh, the baby's going to come any minute, he's going to come. Well, he didn't. And so I called DA and I said, look, I'm not trying to get out of going to Vietnam. I just would like to go a few days later that you've got me scheduled for. So they gave me an extension, like a week maybe. And that week went by, no baby. So I called DA and they said, look, Lieutenant, you've got 2 days. You can stay 2 more days and then you get to the port. So still no baby. So I don't know how many of you heard this when you first went in the Army, but I was told if you ever have a problem that's insurmountable, go see the chaplain. Well, I remembered that. And so we lived right outside of Nashville at the time, so I said, okay, we're going to Fort Campbell, and we're going to go see the chaplain.